And while the journey of seeming self realization is going on, there may be denying of one aspect needed to ground into another aspect. So there may be a need to let go or detach yourself from the sense of person to really ground into yourself as a sense of this impersonal awareness. And yet, when the journey of integration has taken place, all those vantage points exist, coexist, and yet are the same thing, thingless thing. And hence, nothing is denied, nothing is rejected. Being human is what it's about. Because there is no separation between being human and being this impersonal I-ness that you are already. And that is integration. It becomes as natural as it's not even worth mentioning. And as it becomes natural, it is known that it has always been that way. It has always been natural, even when it didn't seem like it. Is it really possible to drop all that was said? Is it possible to drop the interpretation that happened from it, whether it was frustrating because it didn't make sense or whether it was, wow, I get it? Whatever happened with those words, is it possible to just drop all of it for this moment and just be here without needing any words or any meanings or any interpretations? It can also feel like zooming out from the thoughts, the emotions, the mental processing, even bodily sensations. There may seem to be a zooming out that happens. And all of that content is not registered as specifically or as strongly as it does before dropping it. It may also feel like a sense of floating behind these eyes or behind what we call our head. And in that headless space, for the lack of a better word, it becomes possible to confirm that this body is within that sense of perception that is taking place. So, am I in the body or is the body within me? Not even considering the question that am I the body? And resting as this spaceless space, it becomes clear. There is no boundary or no end to find here. There's no personal quality here, good or bad. The sense of good or bad, or right or wrong, doesn't apply here. That reminds me of a poem from Rumi, where it was translated as beyond the concept of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. In that field, I and you are not two. There's just the meeting. It's a meeting of the field meeting itself. And that's what I am. That's what you are. That's what is. And even that field doesn't have any boundaries. And yet, everything is played within it. That's what you are. Living as the sense of right doing and wrong doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. They are the concepts that are needed to live a healthy life. This is home. You are home. You and home are not separate. This sense of being home, the sense of being full and empty at the same time, is what you as the person is really seeking for. And the person cannot make it happen. The person cannot do any practice to come about recognizing this. So I, as this person, can follow practices to really loosen up the hold of myself as this person on the content that I'm living. So practices are beautiful to create a distance or a looseness between me and my attachments and my attachment to myself also as this person. And it seemingly opens up the space of this field that Rumi talks about. And yet, as the recognition happens, it is clearly known that this is causeless. Nothing that happens in the story, including the seeking, the practices, the success of the practices, it is clearly seen that none of that can cause this, because this already is as it is, without a beginning, without an end, without a cause. And yet, until it is recognized, I, as a person, has to be doing something or seeking diligently. in order to get sick and tired of seeking, because that's when seeking may fall away. And seeking falling away is the recognition of yourself beyond the seeking mechanism. This is open without the capacity of being closed. The content, the person, the experience can seem like opening or closing, but this is just pure openness. And again, pure doesn't mean holy or worthy of worshiping. Pure simply meaning that unadulterated, without a second. And hence the word non-dual, not two. No other here, just this. And it's not an extraordinary recognition, although it may seem like that to the person, because it can seem like mind shattering, because that's literally what may happen when this is recognized. Everything I've known to be somehow is seen to be just a concept and a lie. And yet, this recognition in itself is the most natural, most sweetly ordinary. Just like taking a warm shower. There's nothing so special about it, and yet it is so yummy. This is you. And in this, everything is allowed. Even the sense of not allowing is allowed. Fully. Without the second. Just this. And as this with the capital T, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to be. There's nothing to seek. Because there's nothing missing. There is nothing else to be seeking. There's just this itself. There's no fear here because there is no other to be afraid of or to protect from or to defend. There is no other. So all these mechanisms that are honored as armors, as this personal mechanism, when living this life without this recognition, all those armors or weapons or just the cover up to the intense fear that is felt because it feels unsafe in this world, it is not needed anymore. And yet they may still stay there because as this person, if someone just comes in that door and points a gun at me, obviously I'm going to either run or shoot back or who knows what I'm going to do. But the weapon or the mechanism, the defense mechanism will have to come up to protect, to survive as this human. And yet it is known that it's all appearing within this, as this. So that inherent sense of fear that comes from the sense of separation that is felt within this life, that comes from feeling like a victim of life, that falls away because it is seen to be not the case at all. And until it is seen, there is something to do, something to seek. And seeking is grace in itself, because what you're seeking is already seeking you, because you're basically seeking yourself, your true self. And the sense of seeking cannot arise within the story until it is flowering from that light of impersonal awareness that you are, because everything that is appearing and disappearing is within, is from this sense of I-ness, this formlessness that you are. So even being a seeker is a gift already, is rare already. It is proof enough that it's bound to happen. It's just a domino effect. So the first domino has fallen by me as this person consciously wanting to seek, inherently believing or sensing that there is something more to this life than just being this person. That is already the beginning to the end of seeking. If there are any questions, comments, remarks. If you just want to say hi, just feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you. Did you raise your hand, Cheryl? Okay.
Thank you. You being here in this way that you are stirs up so many things in me that are delicious and have a different taste after being present with you. And as far as my remarks, well, I can't go through them all because there is this page, this page, this page.
Oh my God. Did I say that much?
Yes, it's just, and then the best part was, is it possible to just drop it? So, yes, all of this has just been just this. To me, equates joy and love. And I get to be in love with all of it, all of everything and everyone. I think I'm going to start when I speak, uh, instead of using the word person, change it to human. Because somehow the word person separates this from that and you. And the word human, I think, doesn't do that as much. I'm just going to try.
Let me know how that feels for you.
And one more thing that I will make mention is the resting that we can rest here. The resting, for me to have acknowledged it as important as and valuable as anything, rather than before I seem to be denying myself such a privilege, such a important part of being. And I could just go on and on. I am home with you and all of you. And the pure, the way that it's unadulterated. What a wonderful, wonderful way to feel pure. So there again, I can go on and on with all of these pages that I so appreciate. And I'll probably have to put my hand up again, but before I close, I would like to just encourage you all to give yourselves a pat on the back for this being here, home. And here's one from me.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I think I'm done.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's it's really nice um, to see that what was pointed to registers in the way that it was pointed for. So when it was really an invitation to drop all of it, that was really the whole point of the half an hour talking that went before it. Really. Because that's life. Um, whether it's spiritual concepts or material concepts, basically any concept, when something reaches your heart or touches you or resonates with you, there's a tendency, very deep rooted tendency, to hold on to it or to grab it and to try and um, hold it as truth for oneself. And it's a very natural and innocent tendency. There's nothing wrong about it, but to be able to drop what is so dear to me as a concept is really the point of um, the practice of self-inquiry, really, or even surrender, for that matter. If I can surrender all that is seemingly truth or valuable or priceless or God for me, am I able to just drop it? Am I able to even drop the dropper? And then not making this dropping a practice, then dropping the need to drop everything also. Because then I'm going to hold the dropping practice as near and dear to myself and try to make that into a truth. But then drop that. When there is nothing left to be dropped, what's left? That's really what self-inquiry points to. That's what surrender leads to. That's what any spiritual practice is meant to do. So yes, thank you again for your remarks. They are a very beautiful affirmation and a recap of what went on here. So thank you, Cheryl. Okay, Cheryl has her hand up again. I'm sorry, I miss it sometimes. There we go.
If I don't want to interfere in someone else's comments, or because I've had my say, but I have more to say. So if anybody else is ready to,
Well, thank you. That's
or,
just. But if anybody
sorry,
their hand, then we'll be aware of that for sure.
um, this is a question as well as something that I have come to be at peace with.
Mm-hmm.
As it is natural, is the point. That is the point. Not worth mentioning, yet sharing it comes naturally as we live it. It is the it is simply the purpose. So our part in this dance is shown. Does that make sense? Or shall I expand a little bit?
Well, it does, and it does not. So maybe for the sake of others, if you want to expand, please go ahead. And then we may talk about it if that's what comes.
Why it came up for me to write down is you had said, it is so natural, it's not worth mentioning,
Mm.
which I understand what
Mhm.
that is. There's no need to be mentioning it because it's so natural. Yet sharing it is what we have then to naturally share,
Mm.
not necessarily speaking about it,
Mhm.
but maybe speaking about it as you do so well.
Mhm.
And it comes naturally as we live it. It is simply the purpose of what we're doing here is to be part of the dance, to be shown that each of our dance is one dance.
Yeah. As well, it is very, as you read what you wrote there, it sounds poetic to me, really. Um, and it is accurate. It's very accurate in one sense because it's not worth mentioning because I don't go out about just shouting out, "I'm a woman, I'm a woman." It's visible. It's natural. It's obvious. It's seen that yeah, this body is a woman's body. So that's something not worth mentioning. So in a way like that, as that it's not worth mentioning because it just is so obvious. And yet what you're talking about is when the integration has happened and this person is living the life that is being lived. So absolutely it is within which the whole dance is going on. And as a character or as a dancer on this dance floor, using your analogy, there is no other point but to do the dance moves that are given to you as the flow of this life. So whether it's sharing via speaking or sharing via just withdrawing from life and going about in a cave to meditate all your life, or whether just working as a 9 to 5 employee, or raising a family, or just being yourself as life has designed you. And as life evolves you or degrades you, whatever that flow of life is, what you're calling the dance, um, has in the box for you as this person, just playing that part, it becomes the purpose because really there is no purpose but to just be alive as you are until you're not. And the flow of life does whatever it does after that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm going to close my notes so I don't keep referring to.
Just drop them.
Yes, they're dropped.
Thank you, Sharon. So, this being um, the second last gathering for the month of January for us, I'm going to try and offer more time next Sunday for conversations. So if anyone has things that they are going through in their journey, and there are some hiccups or just things that you find yourself curious about and thinking about in your seeking journey, I will be very honored to talk about them if there is anything that comes up for you. So we're still here. If something is coming up, we'll sit in silence for a few minutes. And then next Sunday, being the last one for this month, um, well, for the foreseeable future, nothing really is scheduled for now. So next Sunday, I'll be very happy to open up the space for any conversations throughout the meeting. So you'll be invited to raise your hand at any point whenever you want to talk about something, and we'll make it a kind of a back and forth, to and fro kind of a satsang.
Hi, Murli. Uh, it was. It is nice to be here, and also nice to be grounded. Uh, uh, I'm happy to be part of this satsang, which we had last week and this week. Uh, my question was more on: is this for awakening or the process? Is it? Uh, it takes time. This process to completely. I can call it as cleansing of the mind. Uh, and also, I really don't know that what is mind. Uh, as as we know, we use the brain for our activities, um, but what is this mind? And also how it is different from consciousness, mind. Are there different levels of consciousness? Because these are all the terms which we have read in the spiritual books or which we have listened to talks. Uh, uh, these are the normal terms which has come up. But how this the clarity is attained?
Well, coming to your first question, where you asked whether it takes time for this process to somehow come to completion in a way. Well, yes and no. So it seemingly does take time for the seeking to start, for seeking to be realized to what it is seeking for. And then the seeking being earnest, because now it knows what it's after in a way. And then it falling away, because that's really what um, the word enlightenment is really defined as here: the falling away of seeking, the falling away of suffering, and seeking and suffering being used interchangeably here. So, yes, it seemingly does take time for the process to fully happen and then fall away eventually. But as it has fallen away, it is seen that it has been the case all throughout, even while the process was going on. So that's really what is being pointed here, that as the awakening yourself from that recognition, it is known and it is seen very clearly without even needing to acknowledge it or word it. It is seen that there has never been a process. It has always been this all throughout, even while the process was going on. But as you say, the cleansing of mind and the levels of consciousness that are talked about in some and many spiritual disciplines, they are coming from a vantage point of being the seeker. So as a seeker, as we mentioned in the satsang, that as a person who is seeking, there is something to do. And what is there to do is to do enough to get sick and tired of seeking, because it is only then when the seeking is seen to be either fulfilled or pointless or futile, and that's when it falls away. So until that point is reached in the seeming time that it takes, these levels of consciousness is a modality that can be used to refine the process, to refine the distance between me as the seeker and the content and the attachments of the person. So the higher, or in a way deeper or deeper the process goes in whatever technique is being used, the process becomes more refined, and it becomes more and more clear that the seeking is irrelevant. So that is really, even if you, because I haven't read those concepts in detail, so I won't be able to talk about those concepts specifically. But what I can say conceptually, having known some paths in experience, is that the point of steps and the point of levels in a spiritual path is to really reach a point where it is pointless to be seeking.
Yes, I agree that, that is quite evident, uh, because for me was striking was truth is a pathless path, or it's in a pathless land. So that is evident. Only was concern. Yeah, I don't say it is a concern, uh, because we don't know that. We think is this moment is here and now, but only thing is the cleansing process. Uh, I feel or I understand that it takes time uh, to cleanse the mind. Or if you are very earnest, maybe that can happen. Even that is what called grace of God, or I really don't know, that it can fall away everything instantly. Even that will also not a process. Yeah, it's. I understand key is earnestness, right? For all this.
Can you repeat the last line, Ranjan?
The key point is the earnestness, right? For all this falling off everything.
Yes, and earnestness is not something that can be cultivated. It's not a
Yes.
discipline. Earnestness is grace itself. So when it is choiceless to be really interested in yourself, in resting as just this and not really being bothered about the content, when the content is not interesting enough, it's sometimes labeled as renunciation also. So when that happens, when whatever appears, whatever comes and goes, whatever seems to be impermanent, is not interesting enough to hold the attention, and when that happens, that is actually the earnestness that turns inward, because it's really the only way to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think difficulty sometimes we have to focused on thought, sometimes it deceives, right? That is, so in that situations, you may be victim for that situation or for that anxiety or uh, whatever the thought patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is the only difficulty, that not to have interest in that thoughts or anything. So whatever habituated patterns which comes up. Um, so I th- so that is the where I'm facing difficulties. Like, yeah, I'm not interested in that, uh, but maybe it is time to time it triggers and it falls away. Uh, but that was, then I thought it takes time to uh, fall away all these habituated patterns.
Yeah. Um, it is very uncomfortable when those habitual patterns show up. And it almost, after this recognition or grounding, it almost seems like they even come ever more intensely than before.
Correct.
It really feels like that. What's the point of this, all this? And this is even more painful than before. Uh,
Yes.
so it is a very valid experience. And when you said that the focus is to not be interested in this, because and I also mentioned that in when I was talking right before your comment, um, I feel to point also that being so disinterested in the content that you are able to be fully interested in it. And I don't know if that makes sense for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a, you are interested at the same time you're not
Yes.
disinterested. Yeah, it's
Well, what that means really in practical terms is that I am so not afraid of it, because that is what it means to be indifferent or uninterested in it, is that I can fully look into it and look through it.
okay. You mean that no, having no resistance to it, uh, not afraid of.
Yeah, and that's again not something that you can do as as deciding, okay, I'm not going to be afraid of it, because if it is very uncomfortable and it is rooted somewhere so deep that
Mm,
it's scary to really allow it. However, having talked like this, something may happen within your system for next time, that when it does show up, it might be possible to just really to be curious, that what is this? Like, I really want to see what's coming up and what is it really about, without feeling that it's going to hurt you or it's going to kill you. And it does feel that way, not denying that it doesn't feel that way. However, still coming from a grounding of knowing that it is an arising and it is going to fall away like it has done in the past so many times. So is it really possible to fully be with it through the time that it's going to be here for, and see
yeah,
what it brings?
yeah. That is what I am currently doing. That, so I am fully accepting, or I am curious to uh, know. So it reveals. But yeah, at the same time, there will be also resistance,
Mm.
or being afraid of, because it brings some tension in the body,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, so that makes little afraid. Okay, am I really? Is this going fine, or is this the process normally, or uh, yeah, uh,
Yeah.
because uh, it's we are independently. Of course, there is a grace driving it, but we are not known really. So we are so much clouded.
Mm.
Uh, so that is the understanding, or and not understanding through the mind, or it's beyond understanding. So maybe that understanding takes place, then it will be clear to myself. That is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one more thing is, it's about predestined. Is this, I'm being part of this satsang, it was predestined, or like you're going to meet this many people, we are coming together as part of this satsang. Was it also predestined?
Well, depends on what you mean when we use the word destiny or predestined,
Yeah.
predetermined, because there's a lot of baggage to that word, just like the word God. So, just what predestined or predetermined or destiny really means for me, as the understanding has happened about that word for me, it is all the impersonal flow of life flowing as itself, like a river flowing. So all the mud and stones and fish and everything that flows within the river is is like us being lived in this flow of life. So is it predetermined for a stone to be broken from the origin of the river and be dragged down to the ocean until the end? Or is it predetermined for that stone to just stop somewhere in the middle and get stuck over there in a bigger rock or whatever? So in that way, yes, it is the flow of life doing whatever it's doing to seemingly all these organisms or beings that are being lived within this flow of life. And yet, practically speaking, there had to be uncountable number of factors that would have fallen into place for us to be here together in this capacity, including everybody else who was here or not here, even the ones who were not here and wanted to be here, or whatever the case was. There have to be uncountable number of factors outside of our control personally to fall into place or not fall into place for something to happen or not happen. So in that sense, yes, it is predestined in that way, because all those things have to come together for something to take place. My internet had to work. I had to have time. I had to be alive. I had to be healthy enough to be able to come here today. And same uncountable factors for you to be here today. And then all those conversations that took place before that had to happen exactly the way they did for you to be able to raise your hand and for us to be having these words and sharing this conversation. So in that sense, we can say that there was no other way for it to be but this way, because it is this way. There is no other way. It's happening right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And last question, the Shiva and Shakti, because if I want to relate in myself in being, is this Shakti is called, or Parvati is called, the Kundalini energy, which is there in the spinal column, and Shiva is called as awareness. Is that right metaphor?
Well, yes, it is definitely a way of classifying the principle of the masculine and the feminine, or Shiva and Shakti, in this sense. Yes, and the other way to look at it from the recognition or the framework that we talk about here. So Shiva would be the isness, the thisness of this, and Shakti is the awareness. So the faculty of awareness, the faculty of aliveness, the faculty of morphing into the whole content that is made up of that thisness. So that would be the feminine component of that. And yet, again, holding these labels very loosely, because no labels can really describe what this is.
Yeah, the unknown cannot be described. It's not in, maybe it's not in our experience, and also we cannot define that experience also.
A metaphor that was used by my teacher's teacher is that so a painter painted a painting. So the object in the painting can never know the will of the painter subject. So why the object was painted the way it was, and why this color and not that color, and why this shape and not that shape. So it is for the object in the painting, it is impossible to know the painter subject or the thinking of the painter subject, or we can call it the will of the painter subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Ranjan. Thank you for those questions. Thank you for joining, everyone. And we'll see you next Sunday. Until next time.